guests and friends, and welcome back to Two Things with Two Pastors. You've got Peter Mitchell and
Catherine Wright,
pastors at First Christian Church in McKinney, Texas, and we are here with two things. Each of us brought one. 1 + 1 =
2.
And those two things are the things that we plan to discuss today. So each of us brings a thing. One of them is just like a life thing. One of them is a church-related or theology-related thing, and we don't know what it's going to be. I have life. You have church. Are you ready?
I had a hard time coming up with something. I debated for the last 10 minutes on which one I was going to pick.
Oh my gosh. Well, then I can't wait. And then maybe I kind of want to know later on, maybe off the record, what your first runner-up was.
Okay.
Okay, well, here we go. I got life, and here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about cars.
Oh.
What is your approach to car ownership, car buying?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you keep a car? What do you hope for when you buy a car? What's your vision or purpose?
See, I'm figuring this out
Oh, okay, go ahead.
because my car that I currently have, I bought it in 2019, and it was this is my first adult car. I
Okay.
had leased and I had cars that my dad had bought me, but this was my first, I'm going to the dealership, I'm picking out what I want, and I'm going home with it. And it's hit 94,000 miles.
It's nothing.
I know that's nothing, but it's how long do I keep a car? I want to keep this car. Why do I have to keep going to the shop? Why didn't it start today? I've started figuring out car ownership. I'm still kind of figuring it out right now.
Okay.
You or not. You know exactly what you want and what you like.
Well, I have some years on you.
Yeah.
And so some car ownership years on you. And so, my vision, so also I am married.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always been kind of an old car and a new car
Yes.
in our fleet.
I have the old car.
You can guess who gets to drive the new car and who gets to drive the old car.
Because y'all switch off, or?
No!
Oh, anytime you get a new car, then she also has to get a new car?
No, I do not get the new car. That's how it works.
You get another car.
So I have, so my plan is that one of us is always in, and by one of us, I mean my wife, in the sort of nicer, newer car, and one of us, me, is in maybe something a little bit older or more higher mile. But, right now I'm in a 2013, so it's 11 years old, almost 12 years old, Toyota 4Runner. And I just rolled over 174,000 miles in it. I love it. I love it. And I really, my plan is to drive it to at least 250,000 miles. So I am kind of a buy it and drive it, and I'm not scared of high miles.
Yeah.
If it's the right vehicle. Not scared of high
Because the
miles.
one you had before, it just was pronounced dead in the driveway.
Yeah, that bad boy got to 190, 195, and it just, absolutely kaputs, and it made me really sad. But not that same car, a similar car, it was a few model years older. That was an 07. I had an 01 Toyota Sequoia, kind of the family SUV. And I bought that car with 163,000 miles on it, and I drove it to 240, and it still ran like a champ, but the frame rusted out, which I don't know what you know about cars. That's really bad.
Okay.
That's get sideswiped and the whole thing folds in half, which is, again, bad.
The skeleton's gone.
Yeah, yes, right. It just has it's all exoskeleton. There's no supportive features on the inside, which is bad. And so super sad that car had to go
Still
away.
worn it?
Yeah, I am. I love that car. But I also love the car that I'm in now. But so I am not I'm just not scared of a higher mile vehicle. I'm not scared of, and maybe I can coach you through this.
Yeah, because that 100,000 is
makes
coaching. Me a little nervous.
You're putting miles on, coming back and forth from where you live. And I would just say, don't be nervous about it.
Okay.
You've got a flexible job where if you need to take it to the shop and work from home, you can.
Yeah.
And
this summer I had, a little disaster with the battery.
Yeah. And that's the thing, in the heat here, it's going to eat up batteries.
And it was a moment in my youth ministry life where a youth had come back to church as an adult, and he jumped my car for me.
Oh,
It was nice. It was
yeah,
kind.
very full
Yeah,
circle.
yeah.
Yeah, but what I have found is that what's interesting about cars
Mhm.
is that they have like categorically gotten nicer.
Mhm.
So like when I started driving, granted I lived in the Midwest and not in Texas, nobody had air conditioning. Like no kid at my school had a car with
I
air
can't
conditioning.
imagine.
But nobody had
It's
leather.
145 in
Like-
the car when you get in.
We were spending like $200 at AutoZone or Walmart or whatever to buy a stereo system that you could hook up in your car that would play CDs, or
Yeah.
you would put in a tape deck. If you had a real old car, you put in a tape deck and then you'd run the tape deck
I
adapter
wanted
to
one
your
of those.
Discman.
Yes, I
Man,
wanted
that
one
was
of those.
that was
For my
big
phone
living.
is what I wanted.
But so we didn't have those. I mean, we did, but they were mounted to the wall in your mother's kitchen. But so I mean, fast forward though, of just like you can drive like a 20-year-old car
Mhm.
that has power everything and multi-disc changer. Not that anybody listens to
Well,
CDs
that's what
in
my
the car
problem
anymore.
with my battery was, that we replaced the battery, but you have to go in there and do computer things to
Right.
let the computer know that, because it's a computer, and yeah.
But it's just really hard to drive an old clunker anymore. In terms of like with no amenities.
Right.
I mean, it's really hard to find a car that does basically nothing except take you somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like a relic at this
Yeah.
point if a car didn't have air conditioning or, my first car was a 1980 Chevy Citation and it had one blown speaker and an AM radio. And cars just don't come that way
My
anymore.
first car was a 2001 Dodge Neon that I named Leon.
Oh, excellent.
And
Yes, smart.
and the windows, when it was cold, the windows wouldn't come up. So my friends didn't like it when they drove, but I love that car. Had a good name. Cars need a good. Your
Yeah.
first car has to have a good name, like Leon, and it was just a good fitting. It was a good name.
Okay, but what you're telling me is that you're going to need some life and vehicular coaching about like maintaining
Well, I don't.
your
Here's the
vehicle.
truth: buying cars is the worst experience. And
It
so
is.
the motivation for not ever having to go buy a car dealership or whatever, that motivation is higher than one.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because buying cars.
I want to buy my next car. I want to buy from vending machine. Those car. I want it to just
Oh, yeah,
spit
just
out,
push the
and I just
button.
buy it and I leave it. I don't have to deal with any people.
That sounds kind of awesome. Can I come watch it come spit out of the machine?
Yeah, there's one over off 121.
Yeah, we're doing that. Staff outing.
Okay.
Hit me. What is it? Church thing.
I couldn't decide. I'm still kind of deciding. A or B?
B.
Oh, that was what I was going to go with.
A.
Okay, so A, we're going to go with B because we had an alternate podcast that we considered doing. We were either going to bring season 2 of Two Things with Two Pastors back.
I have no idea where this is going.
You don't remember? But then my husband suggested.
Oh gosh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He knows now. My husband suggested
My memory has been jogged.
that we do a podcast and we call it this. We own the rights to this idea. No one can take it from us. This might still come out. I'm just clarifying. But
Okay.
We own the rights to this. Between Two Urns, and we talk about funerals because we're
funerals.
pastors and we've done a lot of funerals. So tell me, the idea came in when our friend came and I said, funerals. Tell me why it is so important to have a moment to recognize someone in your life who has passed.
The reason that funerals and memorial services are important is because we need the collective moment. We need the communal moment to take all, grief is weird and grief is isolating. whether we realize it or not, like all the things we experience when we grieve are the sorts of things that say, like, you're kind of by yourself.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know how to express this. And in our lack of ability to express either the complexity about a relationship or like the depth of loss because someone was so meaningful to us, like they're so big or so complicated, those feelings, if we can't get them out, then it just feels like, I'm stuck, like you're alone.
Yeah.
And so the communal experience of taking that moment, of naming that name, of explaining the significance of that life, and honoring all of that before God in a Christian context, is a liberating moment. I don't know that people would pick that language on their own, but it is a liberating moment because there is a freedom, a spiritual freedom that comes from being able to, through the shared experience, release something sort of to God, to the universe, however you want to put it, in going, I'm not by myself.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who felt something like this.
Yeah.
There are people that love me. There's people that love this person. Like, I think that funerals are important. I go to funerals as just an attendee because I think they're important because they give people that validation that their loved one and their loss is in some way important to me.
Yeah.
And that, like, I see their loss or this even just moment in their life, and honor it with the significance that it has. Like, it's important that people attend funerals.
Yeah.
Because we need that shared moment. Because without it, we have no other substitute for. And if we come up with one, great, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But like socially, culturally, spiritually, personally, we don't have another substitute that has, in my view, served that same personal spiritual mechanism.
Yeah.
So, what do you got?
Yeah, so what I always kind of like chuckle on my inside is that people think that there's one way to do a funeral when there's 6 gazillion ways to do a funeral. There's no one way to celebrate someone. There's 6 million different ways to be celebrated and remembered. So, do you have like one that you want to be, or do you not want to think about it? How do you want to be?
Oh, for my own?
Yeah.
I would like a memorial service or a funeral in a church.
Okay.
I would like a piano player who knows how to take it to church.
Yeah.
And I want a lot of hymns sung, like old church hymns sung.
Yeah. I always laugh because we have to go get the old hymnals out. Like the current. This one right here. It doesn't have everything you want in it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that said, I also want whoever is left in my family to have what they need for their own sort of experience of the loss and to feel like they've done something meaningful for them. Yeah. Because, I mean, when you go back to there's no one way to do it, I get asked all the time in funeral planning, sort of, well, gosh, is it okay if we, fill in the blank?
Yeah.
Sing this hymn, use this scripture, serve communion, don't have a visit, or I don't know what they wanted. And I don't mean this in a facetious way. They're not here.
Yeah.
And they are the subject of the gathering, but they are not the end user. And for lack of a better term.
It's for them, but it's not for them.
It's about them, but it's not for them.
There we go.
and those are two very different things. And so going back to your point about there's no one way, like, it needs to be suitable to those in the driver's seat, most closely related to that person, that they feel a sense of celebration, of closure, of meaning. Yeah. And like you said, that can look lots of different ways. That sort of haunting question of, well, I don't know what mom wanted or what dad wanted, or, boy, they really wanted us to have a fireworks display or whatever. And it's like, well, there's a burn ban and it's expensive and what,
fireworks
you can't always.
Couldn't have them at my wedding.
No, it's too bad. I could have gotten you some bootleg fireworks.
Okay.
You thoughts?
I don't have thoughts. This has come up recently because we've been dealing with family plots within my family, cemetery plots. And so it's like, well, if I pass before 7 other people, I could be buried at the family plot. If I'm the, one who does the burying, I then won't have access to the 7 plots. And so it's like, well, what do I want? Do I want to be with my great-grandparents next to them at the cemetery plot that he bought? Or do I want to be released into the ocean from dust we come and dust we shall return? I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out. And part of it is I think I've seen so many. Like, do I want to serve ice cream? Probably. That sounds like a lot of fun. Or would we rather open a bottle of Chardonnay? That sounds more like me. So that experience that, and some of that, if picking it myself, releases the burden of those that would later be planning it.
Yeah, those are the things that I would like to camp out there for a moment and say. Especially as your place in life shifts, to be able to do some of those things for your loved ones in advance, to say, and to put to paper so that it's not like this confusing thing. Hey, these are scriptures that are important to me. These are hymns that are important to me. Yes, I want to be cremated. No, I don't. Those sorts of things. To put that in print in a discernible way. That because people are sort of weighed down by those unknown answers to those questions, and then they really struggle and anguish over, did I get it right for Catherine? Yeah. And if you can answer those questions in advance, you do your loved ones a great deal.
And you could just go ahead and email it to your pastors too.
Oh yes, and I've got stuff on file. I've got records from people. Oh, yeah. But the other thing too, and this is maybe more of a practical matter than a deeply spiritual or personal matter, but is I had, just frankly speaking, I had over the last couple of years a series of people sort of directly in my life or adjacent to my life who were about my same age, about in my same place in life, who died very young. And I just sort of took it on myself, I organized, my wife and I have had wills for years, but I went ahead and organized, we both carry 2 life insurance policies. I organized the amounts, the policy numbers, the expiration, the term life policy, so the expiration dates, all into a single document. Information about the death benefit that comes through our pension, through the pension fund of the Christian church. Things like that. Organize all of that into a single document. We have it. It's saved in my Google Drive. We send it to our financial advisor. They have copies of our wills. The person who were to, should something happen to both my wife and I at the same time, the person who would get our children has access to that information to kind of have a sense of how all that would unfold. They're in contact with our financial advisor. That all sounds really scary. Yeah. I have some really bad news for everybody.
It's going to happen.
You're going to die. And I'm not trying to make light of it, and I don't it's just everybody lives one time.
Part of it is that we're more comfortable talking about this because I did kind of ask my husband what we're talking about. I was like, are you kind of nervous all of a sudden now because we're talking about death? You and I talk about it all the time because we're a part of people's lives, and you just have to kind of get over that anxious anxiety part of knowing that someday it will happen. You just kind of have to and the more you talk about it with the people you love, the more it becomes more familiar with you.
And the irony is that we don't want to talk about it because it is scary and it is unknown and there's all these unanswered questions. Right. But when you begin to talk about it, you dispose of those fears and those then things become known.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we can nail down that I would like to be buried in this cemetery. We can become familiar with these are our financial assets or liabilities, and here's what's going to be done with them.
What beverage do you want at your funeral?
May not be served at church. But then when you can see some I don't want to call it control, but when you can nail down some knowns, the unknowns begin to freak you out less. Right. And the more knowns that we lock down now, the fewer unknowns we leave to those that we love.
Mhm.
And that's a real gift to them, because I watch people all the time anguish over those unknowns,
Right.
hoping they're getting it right, not wanting to let that person down. And so the more that we can communicate about these delicate
And being
issues,
the pastor who has received that document before. Oh, well, mom had this document that was set aside, and these were her favorite scriptures. And we'd like you to add this other reading about, what it meant. Like that is what makes it a beautiful tribute, is that like there's that easiness that comes with it as well. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't plan for everything, but we can try.
Mhm.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's cars and funerals for you.
Yeah. And if you want to talk about car shopping or car maintenance,
Go to him.
or if you want to talk about,
Funerals.
end of life planning things,
Yeah.
either of us would love to have those
Yeah.
conversations with you.
Yeah. Again, we're used to it. We do it all the time.
Fabulous. Well, those are our two things, and we are two pastors.
We will see you in 2 weeks.
We will, and we are grateful you were part of listening in on this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.